Yeah.
Well, just a week ago, it looked like Toronto FC were going to run away with the Inter-Canadian MLS series currently being played and book their spot as the league's representative in the Voyageurs Cup final. But a pair of somewhat ugly losses, and all of a sudden the team is staring down what is basically a must-win game tomorrow in Montreal if they're going to get themselves back in the driver's seat. My name is Mitchell Tierney. This is Waking the Red Weekly, presented by Footy Talks, and we're glad you could join us wherever you are today for what promises to be a fairly fiery show after a disappointing week for Toronto FC. Rudi Schuller from DAZN Canada is our guest this week, and looking forward to getting his takes on all things Toronto FC. No Michael Singh this week, as you might be able to see. He's currently in a press conference with Greg Vanney. We're hoping, time permitting, to link up with him a little bit later, but we'll see about that. But as always, joined by Jeffrey P. Nesker. Big platform for you today. Are you ready to bring some takes here?
It's just the two of us, and we can make it if we try, Mitch. But let's preface. During the loss on our Slack chat, you made a comment. Angry Jeff is the best Jeff. Looking forward to the show today. And I want to be the dark prince of catastrophe. I want to be that for you. I want to be that for everybody. But we do need to preface that this is a privilege to get up on our soapbox. We can't possibly know the specifics. A good example is there's been some activity on our own WTR boards over the last little while with respect to Josie, going all the way back to his lack of fitness in the MLS is back tournament. So this is important because we're about to go macro on a very bad week. And, it's a privilege. We can speculate. I love speculation, but there has to be that margin for what we don't know. And there's a lot of it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. It seems like, and again, I don't want to speculate on anything, but it does seem like there's more to this story and more to a lot of what's going on right now. And certainly that's the case with the world as it is right now. There's always more going on for everyone. So, I think that is a good caveat to make, certainly with the discussion that follows, particularly as it pertains to Josie Altidore. But as always, thanks to everyone for watching. If you're in the Zoom live audience, don't hesitate as always to throw questions and comments. George, we're looking for you
Well, do you want to do a poll? Do you want to do
our
our first poll? Your
Yes,
poll?
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right. So
again back this week.
Exactly. The first poll we've got is how concerned are you that Toronto won't top the Canadian table? Very, somewhat, and not at all. And I am going to do my vote and submit it.
Yeah, a bit of a temperature check, if you will, to to start off the show. See where everyone's at. I guess Jeff, your thoughts on that.
Do you want to start with what Ollie just announced, just to get that out of the way? The no Canadian men's national teams until March, just to as an amuse-bouche sort of.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? As was kind of speculated on One Soccer. Well, not speculated. I mean, they had Victor Montagliani on, but pretty much confirmed at this point. March looks like the next time we're going to see the Canadian men's national team. I don't envy John Herdman right now.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the most difficult jobs in soccer, honestly, is keeping this team that has so much potential but really needs time to play together and gel, engaged and focused on what's a massive undertaking when they do eventually start this now very condensed and very long World Cup qualifying campaign.
Yeah. To me, it just screams that, the logistics, this is an impossible mission, right? To do this kind of thing outside of a bubble. It seemed to me that September was like an arbitrary number, a wait and see kind of, October, November. And as I was saying to producer Sonia, as we were warming up before we went live, September seemed a long way in the summertime, but we're only weeks away, October seemed far away in the summertime, but we're now only weeks away from it. And this to me seems a clear indication that, there were just too many moving parts, and that it's very easy to make a date, but in the reality of the world that we live in right now, these dates come up fast, and you sometimes end up in the same place you were when you made the announcement. So, no fault to any of the people trying to organize this in the midst of a global pandemic. But my question is, does the team train at all until the calendar year switches to 2021?
That's a good point, actually. And what does that look like, right? Because there's so many travel restrictions. Certainly, Canada is one of those countries that has massive travel restrictions, even with the guys coming home from the States, right? I mean, we saw that Alfonso Davies tweet trying to get Justin Trudeau to let him come home. But, you think of guys like Mark Anthony Kaye, you think of, all the guys based in the States, and those guys, even as they're very close to Canada, it's tricky to get them home as well. So, yeah, again, it's going to be a massive undertaking for John Herdman over the next little bit, and this just makes it that much more complicated that he now has to wait
Yep.
so many more months to even see his players face to face again.
Yeah, we're collecting asterisks. It's pretty crazy. We just bring a sack so you can hold all your asterisks for all of this stuff. All right, let's get to it. My thoughts on this week that we've had. Whew. I mean, you wrote in the rundown, defensive concerns are back in a big way, and I think that is a point that I'd love to raise. Is MLS 4.12 going to be team spending DP money on defenders? The pendulum's got to shift, right? Like everybody is buying top of the line attacking talent, and we're seeing the scales shift because, we got found out. Our Vancouver is not the speediest team in the world, and we could say things about playing on turf and on all those intangibles, but they made us look ancient, like dinosaurs out there on the last game. So yeah, defensive concerns are back in a big way, and we're in a salary cap league, but is a TAM defender, is one TAM CB enough to be a title-winning team? Look at LAFC. They got rid of what's his name? Zimmerman. Was it Zimmerman? Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. And there's a hole in their defense like nobody's business right now. You know what I mean? That's not a lot of depth on defense when one guy moves out and you're completely different at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll pick up my thoughts on this after, because I believe Rudi Schuller is here. So
perfect.
We can bring him on whenever he's available. But yeah, I know. I think defensive concerns are going to be a big topic on today's show, because Toronto FC did enough to win that game offensively, and obviously we're not able to keep Vancouver from scoring, which obviously is concerning, considering Vancouver's spot in the MLS pecking order at the moment. But it does look like Rudi Schuller is here.
Can we hear him? Rudi, say something. I think he's on mute.
Looks like he's on mute. Yeah.
Do you want to flip your mute button off there, Rudi?
Yeah, he flipped it off. Looks like I don't know.
Oh, I heard a click.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. There
Perfect,
we go. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. I had to take my earphones out. I don't know what's going on. I had a Bluetooth technological nightmare the last 5 minutes I've been trying to deal with.
Yeah. We learned our lesson, Rudi. Yeah.
Yeah, the old joys of Zoom certainly always take place on this show. But yeah, we very much appreciate you joining the show, Rudi. Wanted to start with Toronto FC. They come out in this Inter-Canadian MLS tournament through the first 4 games, and they're looking super comfortable. It looks like they're just going to cruise to this Voyageurs Cup spot. We're talking about things like MLS regular season undefeated streak records. We're talking about clean sheets. Then all of a sudden this week happens and they start to slip a little bit. In your estimation, did they get too cocky? Did teams figure them out? What kind of happened that now they're going into basically a must-win game against Montreal tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it did get a little too easy for them. They came out against Vancouver in that first game and looked like they could have scored 17 goals. It was only 3, but and then even in the second game where both teams looked tired, they still kind of walked to that, even though it was only a 1-0 win. And then they I don't know exactly what happened, but it does look like, again, I'll repeat it. It looks like things went a little too easily for them, and maybe they started resting on their laurels a little bit. I don't know what the case may be, but to me, it looked like the same kind of issues came up in this mini MLS is back, or not MLS is back. This mini phase one of the return to MLS regular season that was happened in MLS is back. Not enough squad rotation for my liking. Is old. Like, there's no way of putting it, nicely. No way of sugarcoating it to me. The team is old, so you can't play the same way you would as if you were playing a regular season. In terms of you have a game every week and you have those 6 days to recover, and so on and so forth. You cannot simply put the same 11 or close to the same 11 out. I know it wasn't exactly the same, but close to the same 11 out every single week when 6 or 7 of them are in their 30s and expect to play the same kind of game and have the same kind of results. So yes, to me, it kind of mirrored it, where like the first couple of games in this phase one all Canadian MLS kind of thing, they looked like world beaters, just like they did kind of not so much in MLS is back, because I think that was a little bit different because all the teams are kind of coming off this long break, but they still look better than their opponents of the first 2 or 3 matches in MLS is back, and then everyone started kind of evening the playing field. I think that's what we're seeing now. I also think that TFC is a little bit too predictable in what they want to do. And that's something that I don't know if that's fixable right now with the roster they have, just because, with the way the pandemic is going, you can't really go out and buy players and try put players on trial and that kind of thing, because you have the 14-day quarantine rules, and you can't really bring pieces in and kind of throw things to the wall and see what sticks. Now you have to know exactly what you need. I think they do know exactly what they need, but it's a lot harder to bring in now. They need a little bit more width, and they need to be a little bit more unpredictable. I don't know how that's going to work, but I do think that they have the pieces to do so. I feel that Greg Vanney needs to be more confident in the rest of his roster, because I don't think he is right now. At least that's what he's shown together.
Well, I mean, speaking about squad rotation, there's a missing player, a $6.5 million man in the squad. Where do you fall on the quickly growing steam Josie debate? And we also have a poll question to open it up for the audience. But do you think he's in a funk, or is this the beginning or middle or tail of the end? Did you hear me?
That's more of a funk than the beginning of the end. I mean, obviously he's almost 31 now, so it's getting closer to the end than it was obviously when he signed when he was 25. I think he's starting to learn now that it takes him a lot longer to bounce back than it used to. I mean, this is a guy who came into TFC. He was already injury prone to begin with. You add 5-6 years, all those miles, the stop-start nature of the season, and you can train, you can't train, then he's in Florida, then he's in Toronto, and he can't train properly because he has to stay quarantined. I think that all those factors put him behind the 8 ball. I do feel that he's still valuable to this team. Honestly, I think he's the most important player in this team. And what that's debate, but when Josie's on, TFC is almost unbeatable. If not, they're top 3 in the league. They're up there with Seattle and whoever the other third is right now, because LAFC is not quite there right now. But when he's on his game and he's engaged, and he's not only just a goal threat, but he's involving his other teammates with his passing and his hold up play. He is an absolute game changer, and he's worth the money they pay him. But unfortunately for TFC, he hasn't been on his game enough to justify his minutes or whatever right now. So it's one of those things. It's a real conundrum, because he's at the top of the hill. I wouldn't say he's over the hill just yet, but he's there, and I think they are trying to be overly cautious with him. But it may have been to his detriment in that maybe you just need to throw him out there and give him more minutes and see what can happen. And if he gets injured, I mean,
who cares? He's been he's not playing.
Exactly. That's the nature of the beast. Give him 10 extra minutes. You want to play him 20 minutes at the end of the game, give him 30 minutes at the end of the game. You want to play him 60 minutes to start the game, give him 70 minutes. I think it's long enough. We're into September now, so I think it's long enough, and he's had enough time to get up to speed now. You can still bring him along slowly, but not as slowly, because we've seen how effective Pozuelo and Piatti are. But to throw him in there and have him be effective as well, and be at even at 90% of what Josie Altidore for TFC, would be an absolute game changer for TFC.
I like your positivity.
Now it's time to throw caution with it and see what happens, and you can kind of reevaluate at the end of the season.
You sort of answered my question already, and it was, should TFC be active in the transfer market, and what should they, what kind of players should they court? I know you've already answered this question, but I can't ignore that MLS teams are in they have a position to swoop in for better deals on players internationally right now because of the state of the transfer market. So, bearing in mind the 14-day turnaround and stuff like that, if they have needs, why wouldn't they address them now?
Yeah, because we don't even know what the schedule is going to look like. We've all been hearing rumors that they're going to do phase 2 in New York, which I guess gets rid of the quarantine issue anyway. So maybe that's the thing they're looking at. So maybe they wait because they only really have one more game in this Canadian portion of the MLS return, not including possible Warriors final if they actually make it. I don't know what that happened. I don't even know what's happening there. We don't know where that's going to be, what that's going to happen, and how that's going to entail. But just assuming that they go to Laryea and they play the rest of their season there, I guess that does open up some avenues. To me, I think if they have the opportunity, they need some more width, especially on the back line. You see Richie Laryea. There's another player that's really important. He gets injured, and then you have to rely on Auro and Justin Morrow all the time because he's both of their backups. I understand that Nick DeLeon can play back there, and they try. You want both of those guys further forward. Of course, Schaffelberg is still young and cutting his teeth. DeLeon has shown that he's a super sub, and he plays a little bit better when it close to the goal. He's much better offensively than defensively. So for me, just getting another speedy kind of backup, a fullback in the mold of Laryea. I know that those don't come along every day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's someone they should probably be looking at just to give a little bit more variety to the attack. So it's not every attack isn't flowing through. Piatti on the right, he goes to Pozuelo. Pozuelo gives it back to him and see what happens, because that seems to be what's happening every single time, and it's easier to defend for opponents.
Yeah. A friend of mine. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think we're a bit late. No, a friend of mine pointed out in the Vancouver game that it behooved Piatti and Pozuelo to basically ignore everybody else on the field, they were making exciting plays, but there was absolutely no finishing going on in the box. I mean, the most frustrating thing about that Vancouver game, aside from how found out we were on the defensive angle, was Vanny echoed the sentiment. We were not finishing our chances. We were generating a lot of traffic in front of the net, but we were taking low quality shots or passing it around, trying to look for that perfect penetrating through ball. And there were parts of the game where I was screaming, just pepper the net, guys. Just Hassal's he's on a hot streak right now, so just make him busy. Maybe something. He's not the oldest, most experienced goalkeeper, so stop taking these highlight reel worthy shots and just try to eke a messy one in, especially after what happened with that PK on the previous game. Stop trying to be pretty and just pepper the net. Moving on to what is my last question for you, but I'm sure Mitch has some more. Do you think that this phase 2 restart is going to happen? That's my first part. And then the second part is, if it does, what are the teams that TFC should be worried about?
Well, I do think it's going to happen because I think that MLS is just too focused on finishing whatever the season is. And the Canadian teams are, it's either quit now or move to New York or wherever Vancouver's going. I guess Portland is the one that they're rumored to go to. We don't even know exactly what it's going to look like, so they'll stay within their conferences. The Eastern teams, it's the Columbuses look good. Philadelphia, I think, especially if they're staying with the East Coast specifically, I think Philadelphia is the biggest challenger on that coast. I think that the Red Bulls are still trying to figure things out, especially since they're going through the coaching carousel again. NYCFC, they can put it together, but I don't think they have yet. But they have the talent to. And then you got your regular kind of if Atlanta ever kind of figures things out, depending on what they do, always a big threat. And then Orlando, who looks crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm just limiting it to the East Coast teams, but those are the teams you kind of have to worry about. I do feel that TFC can compete with those teams, and I do feel like this is more of a blip than a trend.
Okay.
It's tough to say because I mentioned how old TFC is, but I feel like if they go back, if there's a phase 2, it probably won't be as congested as phase. Won't be as much of a sprint. And they won't be traveling to the West Coast like they have to do for Vancouver, which I think there was a big deal for them on the weekend, having to travel out there and then back, and then of course they're going to Montreal. So if they're all in one spot again, and it's not Orlando where it's 1,000 degrees, and they're not playing at 9 in the morning, they're playing at regular times. I think that will help. This team is not. Again, I think that it's what I use for Josie. It's like they're cresting the top of the hill. They're not quite over the hill yet, so I think that they can still kind of compete at that level as long as they have factors, including the squad rotation, because I do think that there's enough talent on the end of the bench to get them through those heavily congested fixtures.
Okay, well, you brought me to two impasses. The first is we've got a poll for the audience, and it's do we think TFC is moving south for the winter? So we might as well throw that one up and get a vote there. I'm going to throw mine in. And you mentioned roster depth, which brings me to what are we going to do about Erickson Gallardo? I mean, we've had this guy for, 1.5 years now. We've trotted him out. Just to circle back, it fills me with dread. I appreciate everything you said, but it fills me with dread that we now have to qualify TFC's performance based on whether it's like an even numbered Sunday and the moon is in the right phase. And, do you know what I mean? Like, so, in a year of asterisks, our team is now a walking asterisk, right? Like, well, this and this has to, and everybody's got to have their right socks on. Erickson Gallardo, I don't want to single him out, even though I'm singling him out, but this guy it's not working. It's just not working. I mean, what is he doing in training? Because when he's out there on the field, he looks like he's playing for a different team, if I'm being honest. So what do we do about Erickson Gallardo? I mean, I think everyone knows my answer, but bearing in mind how complicated the transfer market is right now, bearing in mind that he's probably a distressed asset and we're going to lose some money on a sale at this point. What's your opinion? Like, is there enough room on the TFC bench for Flotsam?
Yeah, I mean, he really has shown that he's a luxury player, hasn't he? And the problem is he hasn't shown to be a luxury player, if that makes sense. He comes off the bench and he plays a very individual game. I think a lot of people were kind of screaming to see him over the past few games because nobody has seen it. It's always been Endo or De Leon ahead of him, and ideal when you have a TAM player of that repute, and he comes in with that kind of CV. You can say last year was an adjustment period, but I think that's ended now. Everybody's adjusting to this new normal. That's not something that you can use to defend him now. I think I'm going to say it was awful against Vancouver.
Awful.
And you can see why he wasn't. He was terrible. And it's like, who have you been training with? I agree with you. Is what he's been doing in training. Who have you been training with?
Exactly.
When you see TFC puts out clips, they put out clips of training, and he looks like he's embedded in the squad. And from what I've seen and being in the locker room last year, he seems happy there, and he's got his. Everyone's got their closer friends in there, and he's got that. But it's just not working on the field. And it's obvious that Greg Vanney knows that, and they're just trying to put him out there, maybe to put him on the shop window. I don't know. Incredibly hard to move him, to be quite honest. I don't, without taking a significant loss. I don't think that's a big deal to MLSE. You win some, you lose some. Not everyone's going to be a Chris Mavinga, if we talk about TAM players, or even a Piatti in terms of what he brought. He hasn't scored a lot of goals. Clearly an upgrade from where they were before at that position. Gallardo's not, and that's something that, it's one of those things. It's like you can say it's just football, but at the end of the day, you don't have a limited amount of these TAM spots, so you need to clear them out. So I'm kind of on that boat as well. I just don't see how it's going to happen, just because of the way everything's going in terms of the global transfer market and how the pandemic has affected everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, are we at the point where we buy out his contract if we have TAM?
To do that, you'd have to have someone lined up behind him. Okay. There's no point really buying him out for no reason, right?
Yeah.
At least the training numbers, at least you keep him around, right? Yeah. If you're going to buy him out and then he just sits and we don't see anybody else come in, then there's no reason to do that. So unless Alvarez has someone lined up, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not going to use the buyout on him, because it makes no sense in terms of and unless you have someone that's going to take his place.
Any idea, the two of you, when his contract expires? That's an audience question.
I honestly have no idea off the top of my head. He was on loan, obviously, and then he was he? Yeah, he was permanently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming they have options. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately.
No. I think it's coming up soon. It might have been a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract, but
yeah, sorry, my internet cut out there. I think Gallardo's people got to me, but we were talking a bit about phase 2, but of course there is one more game left in phase 1 or phase 1.5 or whatever you want to call it here. Like that game against Montreal, what does Toronto FC need to do differently in that match? Did you get that? Sorry,
can you repeat that? My internet just cut out too now.
Yeah. Nice. Oh no.
No, my internet cut out too in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, just Montreal or the Montreal game tomorrow. What are the keys, and what do Toronto FC have to do differently in that one?
Well, simply score goals. I mean, to me, it's been 2 games in a row now. I tweeted this out. 2 games in a row now where they've had 20 plus shots. Not on their target, but at least they created 20 plus shots. They had 60% more possession. They made like 90% passing. All of that is happening it's not happening in the final third, and that is something that they need to figure out, and fast. And it's to me, again, it's can Josie give 70 minutes? Because if Josie can give 70 minutes and you play him the first 70 minutes, especially against Montreal, bring on an Io Akinola, or if you want to start with him together, I don't see how that works, but you can. Maybe it's time to start kind of thinking outside the box. But to me, it's you put your best pieces forward and you see what happens, and that's getting as much out of Josie as you can to start the match, because I think that even at his diminished play that we've seen over the past few months, he pots a few of those more than some of these other players have, and to me, even if he draws the defenses away from Piatti and Pozuelo, at least that gives him a closer look at goal. So yeah, to me, it's score goals, and to do that, I think it's to get Josie as many minutes as possible from the start.
Yeah, before we let you go, obviously the winner of this MLS or of this MLS Inter-Canadian competition will play against a Canadian Premier League side in the final. From what you've seen so far, which Canadian Premier League side do you think would give an MLS side the most trouble?
I want to say Halifax, just because I have a soft spot for them, and they're playing a very exciting brand of soccer. I just don't run and gun as much. So to me, it's going to be a boring answer. It's probably be Cavalry, just because they know how to muck things up and play a little bit more defensively, and even Forge. But for me, it's Cavalry. If I had to rank them, Cavalry, Forge, then Halifax, just because I think Halifax will make it a fun game.
Yeah.
No love for Pacific, eh?
Pacific, I think they got through based on a bit of luck anyway, and I don't think their luck.
No, I think he answered, and we just heard the beginning of it.
No, thank you so much for joining the show this week. We
got you.
Yeah. That's sometimes, you live by the Zoom, you die by the Zoom sometimes, but no, we got the good majority of what you had to say. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Rudi.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, thanks again to Rudi Schuller from DAZN Canada. Again, a lot of things to digest from what he had to say there, and a lot more to talk about when it comes to Toronto FC. Something we brought up, for just a moment there, but certainly was kind of the turning point for me in all of this. Of course, with the Pozuelo Piatti penalty thing. I can already see the look on.
Do we have to talk about it? I mean, it was atrocious. It was, it feels like the TSN turning point. Like, I mean, I had to pick all of my internal organs up off the floor after I did that. And there is some truth to the matter that had it gone in, we probably would have celebrated it to the same level as his audacious Chip Panenka debut. And on our sister show, Quentin Westberg said these guys are paid to be creative. That's their modus operandi. So you don't want to kneecap that creativity. But I never want to see that again. I mean, at the very least, I don't want to see that when we're down 1-0, and our PK taker that was working 9 out of 10 attempts decides to just throw it away. I mean, the MLS Mothership articles, I think Andrew Wiebe said it, that the one positive takeaway is obviously that Pozuelo and Piatti are best buddies and that they're willing to try stuff like that. And I think that absolutely is a positive, but holy crap, guys, like, we're supposed to be a professional soccer team, and that just seemed a little bush league for my taste. And we've said it enough times over the course of the show, is our overconfidence our weakness? And to try something like that against our biggest rival in a game of this importance, all signs point to yes. It's not a debate I'd be willing to take the devil's advocate perspective on.
Yeah, no, I think as you mentioned, if you're looking for signs of overconfidence, that's the peak one. It was right there. I don't know. I kind of blame stats guy Martin Bailey. He definitely tweeted out something about an assist record that Pozuelo could be breaking, and Paz saw it and tried to pick up an extra assist there. I think that's my take on the whole thing. But the other thing that even when I saw Toronto FC get that penalty, I wanted Josie to take it. I mean, you have this guy who, he just looks devoid of confidence right now. I know he wouldn't have passed it. That's for sure.
Well, yeah.
And you just want your striker who's, having difficulty finding the back of the net right now to open his account. And I thought that was a perfect opportunity to just let Josie step up. Josie's good at penalties, and take that opportunity. So I didn't necessarily want Pozuelo on that ball at all. I know you mentioned.
I did. I did. I mean, his record previous to the debacle was fantastic. Right. So, had Josie stepped up to the spot, I probably would have been like, but he's 9 for 10, and penalties are our kryptonite. So can we just not let Mr. Hotfoot, keep taking them? We got 2 questions here. One is with respect to Julian Dunn over at Valor. It's from George. And he's doing great at Valor, George. He's a showpiece there. I mean, he's obviously of a level of quality that he can really shine in the CPL. I thought Valor looked a lot more connected than they did in season 1, and some of that was a consequence of having a stronger back line. George's second question: is he in 2021 starting 11 for TFC? I don't know, but it folds into a question from producer Kev, which was, Was Laurent Simon at fault for all 3 goals in the Vancouver game? And do we have any center backs in the academy pipeline? Which circles right back to Julian Dunn, because he is a center back in our pipeline.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's anyone, even Julian Dunn, as good as he's looked, I don't think there's any of the young center backs who would necessarily be confident saying are going to step into the 2021 starting 11. But I do think they need help there, and I do think in some ways it's a structural issue as much as it is a personnel issue. If you want to go back to Laurent Simon, we can start on the defensive concerns. I mean, it's the same blueprint to beat Toronto FC, and I think Vancouver certainly figured it out. Montreal figured it out after a couple of games, which is just you sit and press high on their number 6, force their defenders to play their passes through the midfield, and then create chaos off of that and be that set pieces, which Toronto FC can't defend when they're forced to foul you because you're breaking through, as was the case with Simon a few times, or just beating them outright. And, they play such a high line, which doesn't make sense to me, especially when, going into the season, I would have told you Omar Gonzalez was the most important Toronto FC defender. I think it's Chris Mavinga, because no one else is able to get back like that. And I think it kind of, when teams are playing them properly and they're not scoring and not taking their chances, then it really disbalances them, because then Westberg's way out of his net because they press him so high to clean up stuff. And I know he's a good sweeper keeper, but I was putting a lot of onus on him to do a job and exactly clean up his back line, and it puts a lot of pressure. And I'm not making full excuses for what I thought was a bit of a disappointing performance from Liam Fraser, but when you're in that 6th position, first off, you got a guy sitting on you, and that makes it difficult to make passes. But you also are so cognizant of the fact that if you turn over this ball, you could be in big trouble. And we didn't see the same kind of line-breaking passes from Liam that we're used to. We saw a lot of the time he'd get the ball and just kind of shift it to the guy next to him. And that's because on a few occasions, Liam was the furthest man back. He was the guy stopping the defense.
Yeah. What happened to Mitch? Mitch is locked in thought, and I really want to know what the end of his statement was. There he is. No.
Oh, sorry. Where'd we lose me at?
Oh God, I don't remember, because I was improvising for about 15 seconds. So, Mitch. Okay. You were talking about stuff. You were talking about TFC, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, certainly.
Liam passing to the
side. Yeah, okay, yeah, because he's so concerned about, on a couple of occasions, he was the last man back, and had to sweep up there. So, I think, and again, you even see it on set pieces. Why are they playing such a high line on set pieces when they don't have quick defenders who can get back if they get the line wrong? It's kind of confusing me right now, and I think
it reminds me of, sorry, I was just stepping in.
No, go ahead.
Well, it reminds me a bit of the LAFC kind of aesthetic, the sort of style that Bob Bradley preaches, which is, we might ship 5 goals, but we're going to score 6. If there was a gun to my head, I would take that, devil may care, what's defense style of soccer over the parking the bus style any day of the week, any month of the year. But it's pretty obvious that if TFC don't score first, the game is a different beast entirely, in a way that I think is above and beyond, the standard common sense. Of course, the game's going to be different when you're chasing the game. I just find when TFC chase the game, they lose a certain amount of cohesion. And the other thing that drives me crazy is that when you flip the center back pairing, they look lost out there, like they're not covering for each other. And when you're going to have, like you said, a ridiculously high line, on set plays that you're, let's be honest, kind of crappy at this year. If you're going to stick to that high line of confrontation, well, then people have to cover each other. So what's the solution? Do we do a double pivot where we have 2 number 6s? So if Bradders is absolutely crushed, we have Liam Fraser filling in his position. I know we lose a midfielder, but is that not a better solution, since all of our play goes through a number 6 to have 2 when we're in trouble? It just seems, I'm not a coach, so it seems obvious to me, but it almost never happens, and the one time that we saw Bradley and Fraser together, I think he was like sort of he was sort of fading back into an almost center back, like another center back, Liam, as opposed to pushing and being a double pivot. And oh my God, here comes Michael Singh to bring all the knowledge.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for on the last 5. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I missed you guys. What's going on?
Nothing. Zoom is really kicking our ass today. But super sub Michael Singh, tell us all about what happened.
I got you guys, man. So I'm sure you heard I was just speaking with Greg Vanny. I actually got to talk to Io as well. And they're both kind of, I guess, reiterating the same kind of sentiment, is just that this is a must-win game for Toronto FC, as I'm sure you guys have talked about. Greg Vanny, in a way, called it kind of like their final. And I feel that because it is their last game of this sort of Canadian Championship MLS kind of version of games, and their last game of phase 1 of the MLS is back. They don't really have any certainty after this. So yeah, they're really hammering down on the fact that this is a must-win game. This will be treated like a final. And in terms of, we got some injury updates too. We got some positive news about Richie Laryea. Seems like he's come along. He's been in some practices, and Vanny said that hopefully he will be available for tomorrow. So if I had to guess, I would say that he'd probably be, filling that super sub role like he's done so very well, a couple times this season, supplementing Justin Moore there on the left-hand side, or even on the left wing or right mid. This guy can play anywhere. So
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Anything about Mullins?
Expect that. Yeah, Patrick Mullins is still off. He won't be available. Chris Mavinga will be available. We heard on Saturday. I think Saturday was the last match. It was turf that was kind of keeping him off. There's kind of this lingering ankle injury that he's had for about 2 years now. It's sort of kind of a treatment for that, I guess, is to avoid turf. And obviously that's why we didn't see Chris Mavinga for most of Saturday night. I think same thing there goes with Josie, who's also nursing kind of like an ankle injury, like an ongoing ankle injury, but it sounds like he'll be in the mix. So
cool.
For the most part, we will see most of TFC squad.
Nice. Stade Saputo is grass, right? It's not turf, as far as I remember.
It's grass, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not beautiful cis grass like our pitch, but it is grass. They didn't pay for the upgrade that then got spiked into oblivion. What were we going to say? You did want to talk about the Bradley. Did we get a Bradley injury update?
Bradley's still weeks away.
Okay.
I think the first time that we talked or I heard about the Bradley news, it said that Vanny said it'd be weeks, not months, but he did emphasize the fact that it would be weeks. So I'm assuming about 5, 6, 7 weeks probably.
Well, that's months.
It's not months technically, right? 8 weeks is 2 months. Come on.
Yeah.
8 weeks is 2 months.
It's not months. It's weeks. It's 8 of them, so it's not months. Okay.
So yeah, 7 and under. 7 and under
is not months. It's a month and change. I mean, can we say fortnights? Why don't we just say fortnights? Mitch, the only thing I think that's on the rundown that we didn't cover was Baldissimo's impressive performance for Pacific FC, which you had listed as something to talk about.
Wrong Baldissimo. We were talking about the Vancouver one who scored the absolute screamer against Toronto FC.
Let's not
talk that guy. Oh my goodness. All right, let's not. Yeah, I crossed it off.
It was a good hit, man. Good for him. And Selly was even better.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the double flip, triple axle.
Yeah. X Games mode, yeah.
9 out of 10 for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, Mike, you missed our polls, and one of them was the Erickson Gallardo Appreciation Society. So,
what happened? What happened there?
Are we able to run the polls back before we finish up here? The results?
I don't know. Maybe we'll collect them and bring them back next Tuesday for everyone. Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
100%.
Sell Erickson Gallardo. Yeah, that is not incredibly
Come on. I
surprising.
wasn't there to protect my boy. You guys know I'm a big Erickson Gallardo advocate.
Oh man, I can't wait until you change your mind. Well, you know what? Change my mind. I am perfectly willing for him to change my mind.
You know, he's in a tough role right now. He has to find some consistency in the side, and you have to displace to do so. You have to displace Ozo or Pablo Piatti or Josie Altidore up front, I guess.
Yeah. Wait, he can play as a striker?
I mean, I think he could. I think that's one of his best positions, to be honest, is playing on the shoulder of a defender. And even as like a right forward almost, he's not as great when he's tracking back. I think it's when he's getting forward, being aggressive is when he's at his best. And I think that's also something Greg Van Eyck echoed. He was asked, I think, about a week or two ago. He was asked if there was like a player that kind of replicated what he thought Erickson Gallardo could be. And believe it or not, that player was Diego Rossi of LAFC. And that's just because of how aggressive Erickson Gallardo can be, how direct he can be. When he gets the ball, Erickson Gallardo's looking for goal. So when you pull him further away from that, I think he becomes less effective. And so he's just kind of in this sort of tough situation right now because he's in a side that doesn't really fit his sort of nature.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a TAM player, and I don't think it's an excuse for him to not be able to, impact something off the bench, and he has to be a little bit better. And, he has to also be given opportunity too. Right?
Do you think he has been given opportunity? I mean, obviously, not a ton of minutes, but this is there's only 11 players that can play every game, right? You got to work your way into the lineup. I don't know. I think we've seen quite a bit of him. I feel comfortable making an opinion about his place in the team right now, and I eagerly await to be proven wrong. But I got a poll. I can use that poll.
your statistical analysis there is.
Watch out, Martin Bailey! I'm coming with polls.
But yeah, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up the show this week, especially with the Erickson Gallardo point. Toronto FC not as great when they're tracking back, but don't forget to check out our sister show, Footy Talks Weekly, every Thursday at noon. Christian Jack, Stephen Caldwell, Luke Weilman. Appointment viewing, in my opinion, for Toronto FC fans. They have a lot of good stuff there. And thanks again to Sophia for bearing with us, and poll master Kevin for his work today. And of course, Rudi Schuller from DAZN. Jeff and Michael, thanks as always for hopping on. And thank you everyone for bearing through all the technical difficulties. We'll be back
next Tuesday.
That's what he said.
Technical difficulty.
That's what he said.
Okay. All right, we're all getting Wi-Fi.